everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you're watching this. Hey, listen, if you're watching this after the live show and you're getting bombarded by ads, it just means that I haven't had a chance to get in there and clean up the ad reel, if you will. So I usually do that after the video is done processing. Takes sometimes 24 to 48 hours for that to work. So don't worry, I haven't forgotten about you at this point. I usually go back and get those though after the video is processed. Also, for you guys that have given me super thanks and super chats, guys, I really do appreciate that a ton. The super chats come in the live, so you can't give to the channel with the chats, but you can with the super thanks. Unfortunately though, I don't get notified when the super thanks hit. So thank you in advance and, well, after the fact too, I guess, if you've done that. So anyway, getting to it, guys. Hope everybody's having a fantastic day. You know, not a whole lot to crow about if you're in the Dodge camp right now. It's one of those weird points in time where, you know, we say this a lot, but there's just not a lot going for Dodge right now between the, you know, the perceived theft issue, which, you know, I'm a little bit on the fence about. We can talk about that, but this is nothing new, and it's nothing that's not happening to other brands as well. So just keep that in the back of your mind. But the reality is that, again, with Dodge really not giving us a lot, and with other brands under the Stellantis umbrella also not giving us a whole lot to even look at or think about, it's getting tougher and tougher just as a car guy in general to get excited about the genre as a whole. I mean, think about it. It's not just Dodge that is having issues, or Mopar as it were. I mean, look at Chevrolet. What does Chevrolet have coming out right now that's really even worth talking about? I mean, yeah, you can talk about the different Corvette variants, but I'm sorry, there's a lot of folks that are looking at that and just so yawn, because the Corvette really isn't the Corvette that a lot of folks were hoping that it would be. Aside from the overwhelmingly expensive price tag and the fact that it basically takes you out of being a driver, if you will, it makes the prospect of being a future vet owner not all that appetizing for a lot of folks. Then you have Ford. You know, I guess out of all of them, Ford's got the most upshot going for it. I mean, you know, you've got the Mustang, which is still going to keep on a trucking. And speaking of trucks, you still have the F-150. I mean, you can still get a short bed, regular cab Ford F-150, which, by the way, is a stone cold hot rod. That's actually kind of something to consider. If you're looking to build a hot rod, you want a two-wheel drive or an all-wheel drive boulevard cruiser, bruiser, however you want to look at it. I look no further than an F-150 short cab regular bed. You know, it's pretty tough to argue that as being a strong point. Something that Dodge just simply doesn't have anymore. The regular cab short beds are now history, and besides, it really wouldn't matter because, well, there's not really an engine that would be considered a high performance engine that you could get in that truck anyway. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Hemi's a great engine. I've had a whole lot of fun with Stormy, and let's be real, Stormy's quick. Guys, Stormy is now running high 13s just in regular air. And by the way, it looks like I tuned out that excessively annoying deal where you would come to a stoplight and the truck would shift into neutral and it would take lifting off the gas pedal, then it would shift in. All of that, it looks like I found the cheat code to tune that out. So that's really cool. Although I haven't had a chance to check it, I did load the tune, did a couple of quick tests in the shop, and it looks like it has fixed that problem, but I won't know until tomorrow when I can actually drive the truck. So a little tuning update with Stormy there. And, you know, for you guys that have DT Ram trucks, you know exactly what I'm talking about, how frustrating and annoying that can be. So anyway, and taking that even further, you know, the Ram, such a good truck, but again, not unstealable. And, you know, you look at other vehicles like the Ford F-150, super easy to steal, the Mustang, crazy easy to steal. You know, it just seems like the Mopars get all the press, and it's just kind of weird. And I go back anecdotally, We're talking kind of going back and forth between what's coming out and what's being stolen. But yeah, realistic. I've got a buddy of mine. He had his F-150 stolen right out in front of his hotel room, and the guy found out later on the reason why thieves love stealing F-150s is because they can do an RFID pop on those things from a long way away, simply further out than what you could ping a GM or a Mopar. So they find them quick, find them easy. They get the flashy lights, and boom, they're on it. So Faraday pouch for the win. At least it would have been on that deal. But anyway, getting back to it, yeah, not a whole lot coming. I mean, again, Ford's got their hot rods, but again, even if the GT500 was part of the parlance of this conversation, a lot of folks, car guys, yeah, the dual clutch thing is neat, but nobody really feels attached to that car. It's not an automatic, so it doesn't do automatic things. It's not a manual, obviously, so it doesn't do manual things. And so as good as it is technically, it's not very good organically. And unfortunately, the sack of meat driving the thing is actually more organic than anything else. And so that's the perception, is that you're just really not a part of that car. It's weird how a hydraulic fluid coupling or a clutch will make you feel like you're part of the car, but the DCT, man, there's just it falls into that uncanny valley, and a lot of folks just they can't really wrap their heads around it. So myself included, I'm not really 100% there yet. It's just kind of weird. But again, what other manufacturers have stuff that's cool coming out? Well, I mean, we've got nothing to talk about. And the other thing, why haven't we heard more about the 400, the 400Z, specifically the Z car coming out of Nissan? I mean, I know it's kind of a rebodied 370 with a little bit of a warmed over hot rodded, turbo 6, but there's nothing wrong with that. Matter of fact, I mean, I've been arguing that that's really the next evolution forward for the modern-ish, that what we're dealing with now, the modern era, moving away from pure muscle into more cars like that, which would be fine by me. But again, we're just not seeing anything coming from any of the manufacturers, which is a real shame. I think a lot of these manufacturers are looking at the prevailing winds, and they're just basically they've dropped their sales, and they're just perfectly content to hold what they've got for the next year and a half, until certain climates may change and start working in their favor. So it's one of those things where it's hard to describe being a car guy right now, because there is so much hype. There's so much negative press with Mopars, with Mustangs. You don't hear anything coming from the GM side of this whole thing. It's kind of difficult, really, for a lot of folks to justify really starting to even drop money on some of these cars. It's kind of an interesting deal. So anyway, getting back to it, wanted to touch on a couple of things. I know that, hey, Tad, thank you very much. Saying it'd be awesome if Ford would have brought back the Falcon with the Barra V8. That ain't no lie, man. To the USA to compete with the Charger. Hey, bring me a Ute too, by the way. I mean, I'm a sucker for an Elko or a Ranchero. So, I think that would be something that we could do a lot of good with here. And the other thing too is this. Look, guys, they say there's no replacement for displacement. Well, actually there is. There's two. One is technology, whether it's a hybrid or 4 cams and 12 valves per cylinder, whatever ends up working best, and boost. And guys, the Barra platform, if you're not familiar, it's a 4-liter inline 6. It is a nasty in terms of sealing that you can take that thing. It's every bit as potent as a 2JZ or an RB25. I mean, it's extremely, plus it's big. It's a big 6-cylinder. So there's a lot of folks that have got their, they're just, warming their palms, waiting for that hurricane to hit the scene and something that's actually worth talking about. But guys, we're not hearing anything. And that to me is the most criminal part of this whole deal. If you're Dodge, regardless of what brand, let me rephrase this. If you're Stellantis, if you're a little bit Stellantis, if you're Stellantis or you are any of the brands under Stellantis, Dodge, Jeep, Maserati, any of these things, Alfa Romeo, any of these brands that are under that umbrella, there's nothing coming from any of these guys. And the issue is that if you're Ram especially, how in the world are you not bringing to market a hot rod pickup with the 500 horse inline six Hurricane combination? That'd have to be a hybrid, all right? But 500 horsepower in a quad cab, have it just like Stormy, 5 bills, HP 75. What's not to love here? I mean, you can market it as the next Warlock, the next little red truck. You can market it, just have something, a new SRT badge. Remember, all the cool hot rod stuff from Dodge either ended like with the little red truck and with the Warlock back in the day. It either ended with them being those engines, the 360, the hotter 360s with the 340 cam, that ended in the trucks, or it began. Remember that the Hemi got its start in a truck. So why then can't we start that trend again? Can I see the 400 horsepower Hurricane in the pickup truck? Can I see the 500 horsepower Hurricane in the pickup truck? Ram needs to lead the charge here. And to me, it's practically criminal at this stage of the game that we're not seeing those engines introduced into the Ram platform. It's, if anything, that's the platform to release them in. And instead, what we're getting is well, basically Stormy. You're getting and I'm not knocking Stormy, okay? And I did buy my truck. So again, love Stormy. But the whole e-torque thing, I still don't know what it does, aside from make weird noises every once in a while. And that's it. I don't really ever notice it. I don't know what it does. The whole start-stop feature, nope, not happening with my truck. And the other thing with like the deal where it would, idle, like it anyway, it's the standstill mode is what it is. It's extremely annoying. And so what I've done is I basically tuned all of those things out of my truck. And, well, I say that the whole, shifting into neutral and then going into gear when you take your foot off the brake, it looks like I've tuned that out, but again, I won't be able to validate that statement until looks like tomorrow. But the thing is that I've been able to do some really cool stuff with my truck and they run really well. But look, if you're going to start to phase out the V8 or you're going to be phasing in a mandatory e-torque with all the V8s, which doesn't do anything. It's a Band-Aid. It's a gimmick is what it is. In fact, any mild hybrid system is just that. It's a gimmick. Unless you can actually utilize it to make power, what's it even good for? It's only good, realistically, to spool the thing up from a dead start. And I don't care what any video that you've seen where somebody says, well, it does this during upshifting and this during downshifting and all of that. Horror shit. Okay, I haven't seen or noticed anything like that with my truck. And listen, it could be doing all kinds of kung fu behind the scenes. But I'll be honest with you, I can't tell the difference between my truck and a truck that I drive literally every day that has the HP 70, the DS Ram, my classic that I roll around in. There is no difference between the two with how they do anything. If anything, my DS, I'm going to try to get a comparison video going at some point here relatively soon, outshines the DT in some areas. And some of that is in drivability initially. So, but that's where we're at with this. So the reality is that to force that technology on folks when it's not necessary, and frankly, it doesn't do anything, just give us the inline six. Give us the inline six if you've already beta tested it in a 7,500 pound Grand Wagoneer. Y'all seen these things, by the way? I mean, dude, listen, it's like a freaking land yacht, guys. I mean, these things are swass as hell, man. You get in this thing and it is country club slick. So, yeah, you roll up to any place in one of those and somebody's leaving pregnant. I promise. So, but the fact is that engine is in that sled and it would just as easily work in one of the trucks. So, I guess the other thing is that, man, I got to tell you, I really like the idea. If Dodge is going to go the same route as Toyota, for example, where you can only run V6s turbocharged and then have a hybrid variant of that. Ford it's a high-end option. You can do the same thing with the EcoBoost. Let's get it going, guys. Come on, man, snap to it. We need to be on stopwatch, not on sundial, if this is the kind of technology that you're going to bring. Because, Ford done gone up and done it. Chevrolet already on top of that with that 4-cylinder, which is still kind of creepy to me. But on it, nonetheless, you've got, let's see, we got Ford all over the place with the EcoBoost. They're the first ones to it. So I guess the idea for me is don't try to sell me a box of Band-Aids with the e-torque thing that, frankly, I don't know where my money's been spent with that yet still. I mean, if it didn't come as just kind of part of a package, I didn't really pay for it. I wouldn't have ordered it on the truck. But that being said, I guess it's a thing, but don't sell me that. Sell me the new stuff and let me determine if it fits the criteria that I'm looking for. I have a feeling it would run just fine, but we're just not there yet. So anyway, let me check in with you guys very quickly. Hold on, let me get my glasses of Moparing. Hold on, let me clean these things off. It's got some kind of funk on these lenses here. Everything is so clear. Being farsighted is kind of fun. Eric saying, good evening, Professor B and Mopar families. First in, Sovereign Knight, mod on the job. DM's got the cadence right. I like it. Yes. Chuck Sen saying, hello. Ted saying, Ford knows their core customers. Indeed, they do, and they're catering to them very well, as a matter of fact. There's a couple of things, if I was Ford, I would like to see them do different. It's not a lot, but I'd like to see them do a couple of things different with those trucks. And y'all know, guys, by the way, if Ford would have done something just a wee bit different, I'd have been coming home with a Ford, not a Dodge. Chuck is in. Carzilla's in. Chuck Rice say stock TRX runs in the 12, so Stormy is smoking. Yeah. You know, the funny thing is Stormy's no joke. And now that she's got the 355 gears to go along with that tune that's in the truck now, man, that's how the truck should have come from the factory. She's legit quick now for what she is. And I really do love the fact that it is such a smooth riding truck and very unassuming with the way it looks. Gary's asking, my warranty's almost up. What do you think about a lot of those warranties that are sold on TV? Here's what I think about that. Don't go that route. If you have a shop, or if you like to take your car or truck to the dealership to get service, which is a great idea. I'd prefer to take my truck or my car to a dealership to get work done. Talk to them. Talk to a service advisor, but more importantly, talk to the service manager and say, hey, listen, I'm thinking about doing this. What's the best route to go? Many times they have an in-house company that they work with directly. Go with that one. That's the one that you need to go with. Don't go with the telephone call people or the people that are advertising on TV. Go with the one that the shop that you're going to be taking your vehicle to, go with the one that they work with the best and develop a relationship with those guys. Let me tell you guys something. I have been able to talk to the service manager at my local dealership. I get great rates. And it's not just because I'm the bald guy on the internet. I mean, I've talked to these guys. These guys treat me like I own the place when I go in there. But it's not because it's me. They couldn't care about that. Trust me on that. But they're just good folks. When you get a relationship going with the folks across the counter, they'll hook you up with certain things. Again, shaving off a couple of hours here and there, and just getting to know the techs. Like, hey man, what's up? How you doing? Shake their hand, fist bump, elbow, whatever. Be a part of the process, man. If you're a part of the place that you're taking it to, a lot of times they'll hook you up, and it's not just at your down the street shop. They'll do that at your local dealerships as well. Yeah, you're going to pay a little bit more initially, but at least usually it's going to get done right. And again, I can say that I'm in a position where I can say that because, you know, I work with these guys with my work truck, and I work with them with Storming, and they're the ones that did the RFID lockout with Revlon. So, you know, a lot of cool things to talk about with that. But talk to those guys about it. Game Genie to the ECU. That's old school right there. Oh, Sovereign, about the Faraday key pouches. So let's talk Faraday key pouches. All right. Now, I don't have, and I'm going to do a standalone on this too, just a real quick video. Here's what I found with the pouch that is potential. Is it in here? For the pouch that looks like it potentially failed. Well, it ain't working the way it should. When you put your key fob in the pouch, don't put it on there with anything else other than the fob. Okay, when you put the thing in there, don't have any like key rings or nothing like that. Just put the key fob in there. Also, watch out for this. My other one doesn't have it, but these key fobs that you can get have a key ring inside of there. What I think has happened, and I don't know for a fact, and I picked up again a couple of more pouches for testing, which are actually a better quality than the you know which ones these are. These are actually the minis. These are like the 4-pack you get. Great for storing stuff. Great for storing your keys, but not for long term. But this part of it kind of spooks me a little bit because this thing scraping around inside of there with mine just having the ring on it, I think it may have scored or scarred the mesh, and you can't really tell by looking, but I think that's what has happened, and it's allowing that RF signal to escape. And you got to remember that RF, the wavelengths, you know, it's just like light. If it can get out, it will. It's all radio frequency is, just another kind of form of light in a way. Well, it's not in a way, technically it is. But anyway, the point of this is that if you scratch that or render it otherwise compromised, you're going to have an issue. Also, these are single lined, if I'm not mistaken, on the inside. Again, you can see that key ring in there. I just would not have that. If I was going to use these seriously, I would absolutely cut those out. Anyway, these are single lined. The ones that I'm using, like legit using, those are double lined, and they're more of a canvas look. And I'll have more information on that. But since you guys are on the live, I figured I would just share some of the WTF moment that I was having with that pouch with you guys. And by the way, the other pouches that I have from, you know, the more common, you know what these things look like. You've seen these on Amazon. Work great. Matter of fact, oh, here's the other thing. And it also could have maybe something to do with the fob itself, because I wrapped that sumbitch in aluminum foil. No kidding. I actually wrapped it in foil and was able to lock it and unlock it kind of randomly. And if I had it sitting in my lap talking about the key fob in the foil, I could still sometimes get the thing to pick up on it and light the car off. I thought, well, maybe that has something to do with the pickup. And, you know, a lot of times, you know, if I say a lot of time, I don't know why I said that. If you have a key fob and the battery dies, the car will still start. You just have to hold it basically right there at the button so that it can pick up a loop or whatever it is that's in there. I thought it was that initially. I don't know if that fob is just a roided up fob or something. I don't know. The other one doesn't do that. The older fob will, the newer fob won't. So I don't know. We're still trying to figure that out. But again, just kind of a PSA to you guys, if y'all are into these fobs and you end up getting the ones with the key ring on the inside, I would, my humble opinion, I would go ahead and snip that. You ever try to take a hook out of a fish's mouth, by the way? That's the thing, but it's a D-ring and you ain't gonna, anyway, it's this kind of thing that anyway, that's where we're at with that. So figured I would share that with you guys. Chuck said, keep a Doberman in your car with poop, paper, food, and water. I got a Weimaraner that girl is, what's funny, she's got really webbed feet too. She's got little frog feet. It's pretty funny. Drunk monkey. That is pretty funny. Dad, thank you again very much. Red Dog saying, what do you think about the Ram Rampage and Dodge Stealth rumors? I haven't heard. Well, I mean, I've been hoping about a new Dodge Stealth for a while. I even said if this did just a quick blip, VR4, and then it just goes away, my head would just go, I'd have just gone total, fan nerd on that. But what I think about the Rampage, I don't think anything of it. The problem is that the Rampage is, I did a standalone video on that Rampage. Nobody can get electric trucks right yet. Sorry, that's just the way it is. The Avalanche keeps breaking down. Ford has you've seen all the issues with the Lightning. Okay, I mean, that's just, there's no way around that. The Rivian, again, having issues. That SUV, by the way, if you've never seen a Rivian SUV, I don't know what the name of that thing is, but badass needs to be part of that name. That thing looks the part, fellas. But, I mean, if something goes a bit wonky with them, you got to paper up to there's a place for EVs. There is. And man, I am not kidding. I am a huge supporter and fan of EVs when they're used properly. I mean, look, there's a reason why you don't see Harley powered golf carts. But the reality is that you can't, it's just a round peg in an octagon shaped hole. I mean, it's just an awkward thing. And they can't get the battery tech right. They can't get really anything right with those trucks. And you try to use it for truck stuff and it can't do truck stuff. I mean, it's a freaking it's a car masquerading as a pickup truck. And that's not a good place to be. Oh, Sovereign saying thank you to Tad. Yes, sir. Thank you. Chuck, yeah, the Stealth is a cool car. There's a couple of them popping around here. I mean, it's kind of neat to see them. Somebody just picked them up at Eclipse too, which is a clean Eclipse, by the way. Him and Dad say, I bet Dodge going to drop a skinnied up Challenger Cuda with the turbo i6 in a year or two. Will be quick, but still not playing to the base who loves big Hemis. Yeah, the thing is, you have to remember, STLA large platform is technically a hybrid platform, meaning that it can be, so you can go all EV, you can go hybrid, so internal combustion with a hybrid transmission, or just flat out internal combustion. So it's one of those things. It just does all of it. So I guess, you might see it in that car, but the problem is that it's not, so that's a force-fed thing though for me. It really is. I don't mind that the platform can be all of that. Okay, that's cool and everything, but damn, I want the engine to have its own platform. I really think that is the right play for that power plant. Think about and you guys have heard me say this over and over again. You got the 400, you got the Supra, right? You've got, if you want to mix in the Stinger too, I guess you could mix that in. The reality is you've got some really neat V6 cars or inline six cars that are out there just waiting for some competition. You can still go up against the Mustang now, just make it a smaller car. It's going to have 500 horsepower, 400 horsepower, whatever it's going to have. It'll have that going for it. It'll be smaller. Again, it's the Conquest. And if they, oh my God, could you imagine? You talk about, listen, all right. If a Conquest became the new car that was coming out, that would be tough. I'd have to let something go, and I perish the thought. Let's put it to you that way. As far as what I would do to get my hands on one of those cars, because that's a completely different set of hot rodding fun that could come with that. And, and that type of a car tugs at my heartstrings because that's nostalgia for me. And you got to remember, for well, I say all of us, for a significant number of us that are going to be on this live and that will watch this live, weren't alive during the muscle car era. Weren't even, it's not even that you were conceived during the muscle car era and just heard about this. For a lot of us, we weren't around for any of this. We weren't hitting junior high or high school and being exposed to cars like this, the way that other folks were back in the day. So the Challenger, just in terms of timeline, is moving past its nostalgia member berries expiration date. We got to get something for these Cold War kids. And damn if the Conquest ain't at the top of that list. I mean, that is a sick to death car. Stealth is kind of bringing that up too a little bit. It's a little bit later for the Cold War kids, but you can still relate. Just some really neat cars that you could still pull from the Dodge arsenal, if you will. And so, what can we expect or what can we hope for? I mean, I don't know, but that is a blueprint. But in fact, it's a protocol that just writes itself. I mean, to not put that in play to me is I don't know, man. It's a bit of a bummer, really, if I think about it. Baron, any way to disable the 3-horn beep on the new Ram trucks when the engine is running and get out the truck when it's running? Yes, if you go into your settings menu under crap. Yes, you can. You can turn it off. It's under settings, driver, under the doors and locks section of the settings, if I'm not mistaken. And it's towards the bottom of it. I think you have to scroll down. I believe it's at the bottom of that, or maybe it's at the very top of that page. Anyway, it gives you a check for 3-horn beep, and you can uncheck that if I'm not mistaken. Complex Visions and say, good evening, B. What's happening, man? Sovereign's in. Oh, Sovereign's saying, welcome, folks. Carzell saying GM said they're going away from Apple CarPlay. Only GM News. Yeah, I tell you what sucks about that. I'm not an Apple guy. I don't really have a girl working that corner when it comes to phones and things like that. I can tell you that Apple CarPlay works really well in the Rams, and the Android app doesn't do worth a darn in that thing. Himmy Dad's talking to Chuck about his uncle's got a Cherry Stealth. Yeah, like I say, there's a couple running around down here that are nice. That are legitimately nice. Chuck's saying nice. Summer saying like and share. Thank you very much for that. John saying Kevin Van Voris and OC Motivator are getting Demon 170s for sticker price MSRP. Would you get one if it was MSRP and not over sticker? Man, this is a question that has come up between myself and others. All right, I'm not gonna go in myself and or have talked. I'm just not gonna even get into that part of it. But I have talked to friends of mine that are in the, I guess I'm like the very small pool social sphere. But we've talked about this on the phone. And would I get one? Here's the problem with the Demon 170 for me, and this is not a sour grapes thing. I have got a legit Foxtrot Hotel 2015 sitting behind me that's by all accounts an early release. And I think, if I'm reading my build sheet correctly, I think that it's car 240, but I'm not 100% sure. But I have got an early release 2015 Hellcat. It went into service January of 2015, by the way. So that being said, you can only have the first of something once. You can only have the last of something once. I would have to get rid of my car to get the 170. Here's my problem with that. I really like my car a lot. And if I could get one at MSRP, I don't know what I would do with that car. to be honest with you. And the reason why I say that is, and this is what I've said before, if I bought that car, I would then have to have the RF hub bricked, go through all the things that I've done with my car to make it extremely unappetizing for a thief to run off with it. And if nothing else, highly annoying for a thief to bounce with that car. But I'd have to do all of that to that car. Then on top of that, I would need to be exercising that car. I would have to have it at the drag strip regularly. And this is where things come to a grinding halt for me. How do I put this? As soon as the 170, the first one hits the drag strip in good DA, that will be the only first time that that car goes down the track as a car out into the world. That owner of that car has got a clock that starts ticking. It's okay, stopwatch now. That car is going to be eclipsed so quickly by other EVs that are out there that it is going to, you're going to have to get the car, do whatever you're going to do with the car, and then ditch it after 6 months. Collect whatever you think you can get above MSRP, understanding that you may have to pay taxes on that money. That's number one. Depending on how, your business model is set up with this thing, you may end up paying capital gains on that car. But I mean, yeah, you'd rather pay the capital gains. Great. Give me the money. Well, and not so fast. There are collectors out there that'll throw fat money around on those cars, but let me just tell you that the guys that are getting it for MSRP, fantastic. If you've got the cash to throw down on it, because for me to get one of those cars, I'd have to get rid of my car. And so whatever money that I made on the sale of that car, part of that's got to go to get me another car. I don't want to be without a Hellcat variant. I just really like those cars a lot. Or if they came out with a Conquest or a Stealth or whatever the thing might be. But I'd want to have a replacement for that. And then on top of that, how much money would I have after that fact? Well, let's say I made $100,000. 15% on capital gains leaves you with 85. Walking around money on a decent used Hellcat is going to be around $55,000 to $65,000. Call it 60. So now I'm at 80. Ditch $60,000 on a car to replace it with, right? And now I'm down to what, 80 for 25 grand. Well, $25,000 is still a lot of money, but again, here's the twist. You had to pay taxes on, for me, let's say half the value. That's $3,000. So that eats into $3,000 that you're gonna have to pay. Plus I'm gonna have to pay taxes full boat on the new car. So you've got that to consider. I mean, unless a dealership is going to handle, you still have to pay full boat anyway. So now you're looking at 36. I got $7,000. So now out of 25, I'm down to 18, 19-ish. Let's call it $18,000. Well, in 6 months, you have to wonder, okay, I've got to insure it. That's going to be an amount of money. Next thing you know, it's not like you bought the car and are flipping it. Like you would have to ditch it in 6 months so that you could buy your car if you wanted to and walk with $10,000. There are easier ways to come up with $10,000 if that's the end goal for this. And when you really start to break the numbers down, yeah, it might do well for the channel for a hot second, but believe me when I tell you this, guys, you're going to see 3 or 4 of these things. It's going to be oohs and ahs, and then it's going to be just another Challenger going down the drag strip. And I know that that is not the sexiest way to put it to you guys, but that's the reality that we're living in. And unfortunately, there's a whole lot of cars that are a whole lot quicker than that thing with the Mopar nameplate on them. And here's the last part of it. What happens if that damn thing doesn't run 8s? What happens if I were to get into it or other competent racers, Quick Brick gets into one of these things, or Speedy gets into one of these things, and you end up only running a 9 deuce. Like, dude, it better be like in just like sauna ass density altitude, because unless that car covers a number, it's going to be the demon all over again. So on one hand, I'm excited for the car. On the other hand, and the reason why I'm excited, not just for the car, but for the technology and everything that could waterfall. But on the other hand, I mean, it would have to be a major play for me to get into one of those cars, with the understanding that I'm only buying it for fodder for the channel. And then as soon as I'm done with it, it's out of here. That's the only way. Well, what that was healthy. Did y'all hear that? Anyway, that's the only way you can realistically make something like that work. Anyway, I kind of went overboard on that explanation. Red Dog saying Ram is announcing a new truck tomorrow. I think there is a teaser commercial. I hope so. And that would be super cool. And I'm hoping that it's something that we can get behind and go, yay. And it's got the inline 6 and it does all the cool stuff. Fingers crossed. I'll look into that teaser video. I haven't heard about that yet. That's awesome. Albert says, hey, B, best way to determine exhaust manifold leak on an 0457 F-150. Less than 66,000 on the odometer. Hoping it's just that and nothing worse. Best way to determine if it's an exhaust manifold leak is it'll go tick, 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 and that's it. It'll just go away once you fire the truck up. If it goes tick, 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 and it doesn't stop, and you give it throttle, and then you get off the throttle, and it goes tick, 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 or it goes tick, 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 and it's got a weird little bit of a chirp to it, that's a bad lifter, and that's a bit of a problem. The same goes for GM vehicles, by the way. They have the exact same problem. In some cases, some will argue that it's even more prolific than Rams, with GMs wiping out lifters in camshafts. Same exact reason, same exact symptoms too. Rams, though, with the Hemi tick on the exhaust manifold, yeah, it'll just go tick, 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 and it just goes away. As everything kind of expands, that little bit of a gap closes up and it doesn't leak anymore. Itch is in. Top of the evening, sir. Top of the evening to you, my friend. John say, why didn't you buy your truck with a different color? Because gray is basic color. If it were my truck, I would have gone with fire engine red. They didn't have a red one on the lot, number one. Number two, man, I like that deep shadow gray. It's a really pretty color in person. But they just didn't have a red one on the lot. Now, Christopher was saying, only reason why I didn't buy a new truck this year is because you can only get the e-Torque Hemi. That's for 23, and he is exactly right about that. I have seen too many alternator generator problems. Luckily, mine's deep enough in the runs so far where I think I'm outside of that. Some of the earlier trucks, though, yeah, they had a few problems with theirs, for sure. Oh, and by the way, no, I cannot even touch any of the e-Torque system, unfortunately, with HP tuners. Believe me, I've looked into ways that I could. Just can't do it right now. X is in. Well, what up, Professor B and chat? What up, X? Red Dog saying, new Stealth is a Durango replaced. Jesus Christ. No. Okay, well, sorry. Minor breakdown, kind of a tear. Chuck saying, I could have gone wide body, but I selected the narrow body Challenger Scat here at Handy Cars. You can order from anywhere, folks. They have a great muscle car selection. Very nice. I like the narrow body the most in the Challenger, and I love the wide body on the Charger. Dude, I'll put it to you like this. I'm not a King Daytona fan. My local dealership's got a King Daytona sitting on the showroom floor. Locals, by the way, got some hot rods. They've got a Grand Wagoneer, which is a baby making appliance, fellas. I don't know what it is about that sled, but I am all about that life. But they've got a King Daytona, which I want to love it, but I just about it. But damn, that wide body looks good. They've got a TA 392 car on the showroom floor, B5 blue, which is also really pretty. God, they got to do something about the wheels. Why cannot they? Why cannot they? What the hell kind of cadence was that? Why cannot they? What the shit? What am I? Shakespeare. Anyway, why can't they put a staggered wheel setup on that car? I just don't know. Why cannot they? I'm never going to hear the end of that. Siren saying, speaking of Ford, I'd love to own a Shelby Daytona. I tell you what, so Superformance back in the day, I loved Superformance. They were the official parts maker for Shelby American. And so anyway, I had gone to Louisiana. There was a company in Louisiana that was building them. And I was invited out to take a look at the then, it wasn't really new, but out Superformance Daytona Cobra with the Roush 408. And at the time, I had my 97 Viper. I'm sorry, no, I had my Shelby at that time. But I had my Viper before that. And I drove that car. And dude, let me tell you something. Yeah, that car with that setup, that 408, perfect. I mean, dude, about a 550 horse 408 in a car that weighs about 2,900 pounds. Absolutely perfect setup. So yeah, it really, really good car. And you could see the Viper GTS DNA coming through on where you could see where the Viper GTS got its DNA. Baron saying, was the e-torque more money than the 5.7? No, not when I bought my truck. I just got a 23 Longhorn 5.7 company truck and love it over the Ford F-150 I had prior, also a 23. A lot of guys are saying that. A lot of guys that come from Ford, regardless of what engine you had, whether it was the 2.7, the 3.5, the 5.0, a lot of those guys, when they drive the Dodge, there's something about the Dodge. It's really smooth. It's quieter. There's like a secondary harmonic that the Ford has. I can't explain it, but you just have to drive the two back to back. And there's a secondary harmonic that the Ford has that the Mopar, that the Ram just doesn't have. It's just smoother. And a lot of guys, when you go from a Ford to a Dodge, it's like, oh, that's what all that talk was about. That's what the ride thing was about. Gotcha. Even though, like, against the 5.0, the 5.7 just doesn't rev out like the 5.0. But it's got plenty of power. It's got a lot of torque, a lot of punch, way more than the 5.3, which is a freaking thing I got to talk to these journos about. It's pissing me. Every single time that there is a GM versus Ford versus Mopar versus Toyota versus whatever, it doesn't matter. It's whatever the Toyota is, could be back in the day it would have been a V8. Now it's the V6, right? Ford will show up with the EcoBoost with the hybrid thing. And Chevy shows up with the 6.2. All of those trucks are a bunch of monies, right? You cannot get, well, a Toyota, you can only get one engine, but you cannot get the 3.5 EcoBoost hybrid in a regular dollars and cents kind of truck, like a fleet style truck. Ain't gonna happen. You cannot get the 6.2 in a regular quad cab pickup truck. You can't do that. You get the 5.7 in any truck that you buy. And that's the thing that drives me the most nuts is, look, compare it to the 5.3, compare it to for the GM, compare it to the 5.0 if you want. They're not that far off when you do acceleration runs with them. I hate to break it to folks, but 5.7 actually runs exceptionally well. It's just not as fast as the 5.0, but it's got better tip-in torque. I drove all of these things. I didn't drive the Toyota. I wasn't considering it seriously. But it was really down to the Ford versus Dodge for me. And again, if Ford would have played ball, I'd have that black STX sitting out front. But the reality is that they wouldn't. And the poor, just, I don't want to call him any names, the guy just did not know what he was talking about when I was telling him, look, I want to put gears in this thing, put a set of 373s in it. You can't order it that way. I understand that. You have a service department. I want to buy the 373s, but I want you to cover the labor to install it as part of the deal. Yeah, you can't order it with 373s. Right. Okay. Listen, and that's how this started. The poor guy just couldn't get it. Anyway, I felt bad. I felt after the second of me trying to explain to this guy, I earnestly felt bad for the dude. So anyway. Oh, Christopher's saying, owning a Chrysler product, the only warranty I would get is Chrysler Max Care. Most of those aftermarket ones are horrible. Yeah, except a select few. And I get it. I wouldn't be a part of that either. So I'm saying, B, what's your take on the Shelby Daytona? They're great. Again, if you can find a Superformance, which is the most, it's the best one. I mean, I think Shelby America would even signs off on Superformance now, and has for like forever. Yeah, I mean they're still, the pedals are still offset, just like in a Cobra. They're not the most, you have to get used to it, but they are really neat cars. For the amount of money, I mean, you probably rather get a Gen 2 GTS or a Gen 3 GTS. It's just a more modern car. But no, there's nothing wrong with the Daytona. They are badass cars. Someone saying that's the pouch with the extra pocket. It's one of them. So this one is called the Mini. I got it in a 4-pack, like $11, but it's the one that is advertised as having that key ring in there. And I thought, well, let me take a look at that, because that's, I think, where the problem is that this thing ends up rubbing inside on that mesh and could create a situation where it's no longer capable to do its job for whatever reason, due to wear and tear or whatever. So I'm saying, yep, only the fob. Yeah, listen, guys, when you put your fob in there, don't put it in there with any like key rings or anything like that. Chuck's got a link to something in there. Oh yes, it's an RF blocking mesh. Yes, it's exactly what it is. Faraday pouch. Let's see. Yeah, so we're saying if any of the fibers become frayed or separated, they can get out. And the thing is that it's blocking a certain wavelength. So yeah, if anything gets in there and it's kind of a little bit out, it's just like, it'd be the exact same as if you could shine a light in here. Now, it doesn't work like that with these things, but it's the equivalent of having a little hole, even if it's slightly frayed. And if the light can get out, of course, you can't test it with a flashlight, but if the RF signal, if that light can get out, it's out in the world. And what's weird is that when mine fails, it doesn't always fail the way that you might think. It's only that if it's close enough, it'll trigger. And so it's just weird. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So again, to put it mildly, that pouch is no longer being utilized. So the full can act as an antenna. So I see the Rivian popping up in California. We have quite a few here in Texas. Tad saying the Stealth was the RTTT, the 3000 GT with the VR4. Yeah, I mean, any of those things. I get those mixed up all the time, but they're all the DSM stuff. It's all scrambled eggs in my head at this point. But I mean, it would just be sweet as hell if they brought back. I mean, VR4 was just wide. VR4, any of it would be cool. Stealth, Conquest, 3000 GT, any of it would be awesome in my opinion. I love those cars. Sorry, I've seen a few of the Rivians yet. Oh, Chuck saying his first Mopar was a Dodge Shadow ES30 V6 with a 5-speed manual. That's a fun car, by the way. Mine was a Dodge 600 turbo. So EVs are great. I still go gas. Yeah, I mean, they're, like I say, they've all got their fun stuff. Their fun stuff. They're environments where they can be fun and do the stuff that they were meant to do. City car stuff, if you can get away with an EV, it's a really good option. But it's just not for it's not for the guy that's commuting. It's not for the girl that's got to go that's a rep that's, covering a territory. It just doesn't work like that. It's not viable for everybody to say, I must be electric. It's stupid. To narrow it down like that is just absolutely absurd. Mark saying, got the cadence down. Saying, what's up, Mason? What's up, Mark? Chuggins in with the shades. I like it. Complex saying, Conquest TSI, dude. Oh, my goodness. So, fun fact with that, Conquests back in the day, the TSI, it's a 2.4 liter turbo. And so it's a big 4-cylinder. So it's kind of or 2.6 liter turbo. Now I'm all screwed up. Anyway, cool ass car. Fast though. And it's one of the first cars that I drove where it just connected. For some reason, that car and I just fit together. And I had a line on a black on black Conquest TSI. I think it was an 88 or 89. I can't remember. Anyway, and then the guy, I just didn't get around to it, and the guy sold it before I could do anything. It wasn't like the Roadrunner where the guy sold it out from underneath me. It's just the thing where I drove the car. I drove a black one and a white one, and really wanted the black one bad. And anyway, that one sold. The white one sold the day that I test drove it. The guy had two of them on the lot. That car sold the day I drove it, and then the black one sold, I think, 2 or 3 days after I drove it. I really like that car. Chuck said I did 135 in the shadow. It was a pretty quick car. 3.0 is a good one. Mark's saying classmates were planning a 10-year high school reunion and we're talking about racing. I was down to try until somebody told me they were bringing their super stock. I'll pass on seeing the hazards. Man, listen, you never know. They can spin. Make them earn that win. Make them earn that button push, man. Complex said I had one Stealth RT twin turbo and 4 Conquest TSIs. Very cool. I loved the Conquest, man. God, just cannot. It was just so perfect 80s type of car. If it just a couple of tweaks on that thing would have made it just would have been perfect. Does the blue wrench next to our name mean we're channel squatters? No, it means you're a mod. Himmy Dad saying, yep, I missed the muscle car era, being born in 77. I do remember being a little kid and going to my uncle's houses where he had his red 68 Charger 440. Yeah, most of the guys that I knew, I mean, I grew up in a family that raced. I thought everybody's family raced motorcycles and cars. I didn't realize until I got really older that wasn't like how people just lived. Like what do you mean you don't race? What do you mean you don't race stuff? That's weird. Anyway, I waited until later that, we were the ones that were more the outliers, but yeah. Red Dog saying also here in the Rampage from Brazil will have the 4-cylinder turbo and not an EV. Interesting. Well, STLA truck, I believe, is also a hybrid, so that's kind of neat. We'll talk saying the Mustang, the Conquest, and the Integra were all we talked about when I was in high school. Yep. And the thing is, the funny thing about the Conquest is it fit right in with the narrative back then. You had V8s versus 4-cylinder turbos, 6-cylinder turbos, and really for some, the 6-cylinder turbo is kind of exotic-ish back then. High compression for the time anyway. Twin cam 4-cylinders. All of those were in the mix. And the cool thing about this is the neat thing. That's when your hot rods were so diverse, okay? People talk about the muscle car era and go, okay, well, it was Mopar versus Chevy versus Ford, and it was small blocks versus big blocks. Guys, you had Toyota in the mix with the FX16. Granted, these aren't, 12-second or 11-second cars, but it's not the point. You had cool cars like that contraption. You had, later on into the mix, you had like the S2000s and things like that. But you had really neat cars. You had V8s with the Mustangs and the Camaros with the different ways they were going about making power. And again, with the Conquest, 944 Porsche got thrown in there. The RX-7 was big back then, guys. Listen, you had the turbo RX-7 making waves back then. Completely different powertrain altogether. A lot of folks were looking at that the same way some people look at EVs today. So there were really cool cars with a diverse powertrain configuration. Again, you had your rotaries, your four-cylinder, four-cam stuff, or twin-cam four-valve. You had your turbo four-cylinder, your turbo six-cylinder. You had the V8s. You had you had all these really cool ways to make about 275 horsepower, or at least functionally they were, because of power to weight ratio, in that range. And they were all fast. And you would see them at the spot, man. You'd see Conquest going after a Camaro, and it would be neck and neck, door handle to door handle for an amount of time. You know, these were really cool times, and it's just a shame. You know, the guys that are kind of going through the muscle car, this golden era that we're coming out of, with the Mustang and the Camaro and the Hellcat variants, the 392s and the RTs and all that. It's just tough. By the way, speaking of RT, oh man. Okay, so not to just kind of a sidebar. One of the lots down here just picked up and I got to get closer to this thing. If I could, I would. Assuming it's an automatic car. It's a freaking candy stripe RT. And y'all know I have got a dumb, weird fascination fetish for those cars. Well, it's because it's the first modern era Challenger that I ever drove. Was you would know them as the Signature Series. They were they had the 20-inch wheel and tire combination. This one's got different aftermarket wheels on it, from what I can tell anyway. But it's still a candy stripe car, and so anyway. I don't know the year of it. I just saw like the rear quarter panel. I said right away it's a candy stripe car. Anyway, you note it as the Signature Series, and anyway, it was the first modern era, if you will, Challenger, Charger, anything that I drove was that car, and I really liked it. And that would be what I would want to base a 5.7 build off of. Would just be a candy stripe car, because I just freaking love them. I just, for whatever stupid, dumb reason, I just really like the candy stripe cars. White with red stripes or white with red livery going down the sides. Don't get it. I don't know why I like it. It must be like a throwback to my Viper days, but those were red with white stripes, or white with red stripes was Team Orca. I don't know. That's not the translation that I'm seeing with these cars. I don't know. Anyway, there's one that just came up. It looks like for sale locally. So Chuck saying, hit me, absolutely. V8 Conquest had my attention. I tell you what, a lot of the guys were LS swapping those things. And apparently an LS swap in a Conquest is about as easy as achoo, and it goes in. So there you go with that. Sovereign saying OC Motivator and Kevin Van Boris managed to get some, I guess, I don't know. If they're able to do it, that's also OC's in saying, yep, he got his. Very nice. The thing is that I could not get an allocation. I actually went looking for one, and they were trying to crack me at 90 grand, and that was a discount, by the way. And I'm like, get the hell out of here with that. Chuck's liking the super stock. There's a lot of folks that are in love with that super stock. The technology in the 170 though is pretty legit. I'm just hoping it runs the number. That's the only thing I'm concerned with that car is just the hope that it doesn't fall victim to the same thing that the Demons did. And that's that it takes obnoxious density altitude to cover a number. It's all right. I'd be happy with a wide body Scat. Yeah. 485 is a chunk. It is a lot. Chuck said, I already have a Scat and it's not going anywhere. It will rot in my yard. Well, will I keep up with it? Yeah. Sovereign say, I'd be more excited to see you get an HO Hurricane i6 slapped in the Viper. So check this out, guys. I did. Okay, so time for me to, okay, full disclosure. So we were on a live the other night and I had stumbled across, and back over here. So in fact, okay, so it's been 20 years since that picture was taken. Right there, that's my ACR. I'm doing a burnout. The May 2nd and 3rd, Bowling Green, Kentucky, V10 Power National, where I came in third place, motor only, and was the fastest stock displacement car. Anyway, I went on the lookout for the rattiest, shit boxiest Viper that I could find. And I could not find one to save my life for a price that I was realistically willing to pay. Now, here's the thing. I didn't really want to go after a Gen 2. If you've never driven a Gen 2 Viper, then you've never wrecked one. I mean, these things, the suspension geometry, it's great on a slick, on a track. That's one thing. But on the streets, they're a little bit weird. Anyway, I was looking for Gen 3s and Gen 4s. I am a big Gen 4 guy. I love the Gen 3 and Gen 4, really. I could not find one, though, with like a blown engine or, it's jacked up. I was looking for Gen 2s with like jacked up hoods. I was going, well, no, then I'd have to find a hood for it, and that's ungodly expensive. So anyway, I went looking for a Viper because it was, the way I was thinking about it was this. I was like, look, if I can find just a ratty, beat up Viper, pull the V10, do whatever with that thing, but throw that 500 horse Hurricane engine in there, that would be a sick little combination. So anyway, I went looking. I struck out royally trying to find one. So that plan will just have to live in fantasy. Red Dog saying maybe the truck release is the Dodge Ram 2024 with the turbo. That would be awesome. So we're saying, hell yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, maybe the new truck announcement is the 24 Ram with the Turbo 6. Check Motor Trend. I will definitely do it. Someone saying Nick at Nick's Garage wanted a Demon 170. I tried to send an IM to Dodge, but I seriously doubt they would have seen it. Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of Demon owners that are pissed about the 170. Aside from the fact that their values went down like that overnight, they're pissed because some of the ones that are trying to get one are getting nailed for the add tag. And look, here's the thing. If you're going to be taking the car to the drag strip, there's a group of people that I would love to see get one of those cars because it would go to the track and it would actually be a bit of a, I don't know if you'd call it a competition, but it would be worth it to see some guys get some of these cars and get them down the track because they're not just going to be garage queens. And again, I have to revert back to the idea that, look, it is awesome. It's an awesome car. I hope that the technology can waterfall some way or another into the other Hellcat variants. It really kind of needs to. But it's just, and again, what happens when the next thing is faster than the Demon? You know what? And if you do have to pay an add tag, how is that going to factor into how folks are going to see that car and how they're going to really value that car? I mean, I don't know. And that's why I was not going to be a player with an add tag. And because I couldn't jump on an allocation quick enough outside of what was going to basically be an arm and a leg and everything else, it just wasn't going to happen. And that's what's really turned off a lot of guys. I mean, Demon owners, that were being asked to spend $50,000, $70,000 over sticker, who had already kind of done that with their demon, and were struggling to make their money back, at least with those cars being sold into them as a collectible. And don't forget, guys, it wasn't that long ago when the walking around currency that a demon would bring was $130,000. That's where it plateaued and stayed. And basically all demons kind of floated to that 130. And then we all saw them lose $15,000 to $25,000 worth of their value practically overnight. And so, there's a lot of guys that lost money with that. And I think some of those guys, even though they were willing to shell out the extra coin to get a 170, they just didn't fall in line with that. So anyway, I've talked to some demon owners that had gotten rid of their cars at 130 to get super stocks or to get red eyes, just to have a car to play with, and pocketed $15,000 to $20,000. Could be a situation, the same thing with the 170, but remember, it's only worth that money when you sell it. You got to get rid of it to reap the rewards. And, there's, like we were just talking about earlier, there's some downside to that. Again, in my opinion, if you've got one, get out there, get some numbers with it, get it on a dyno, abracadabra, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And then while it's hot, ditch it. Because as soon as that cools off, or the next thing shows up, remember, the hottest girl in the room is only the hottest girl in the room until a hotter girl walks into the room. And we all know how that worked out for the demon. So, Sovereign, they're only bringing 300 to Canada. See, like, subscribe, share. We'll talk about NMRA, NMCA. Yeah, we've been talking about that for a long time. At this stage of the game, National Mustang Racers Association is what he's talking about primarily. And these cars are doing 650s. Those are race cars primarily. But you get into the Power Tour guys, and those are cars that are running in the fives. In fact, there was a Barra-powered car. No, it wasn't a Barra-powered car, was it? There was now, what the hell was that thing? Anyway, there's plenty of cars that are running in the sixes and fives that are technically legit street cars. Granted, they're old school muscle cars, a lot of them with big blocks and turbos, but and are coming in with a price tag far exceeding what a MSRP Demon 170 would go for. But they're out there, they're lurking. So I get it. Yeah, when you really start getting in some of these really fast cars, the production car, none of the production cars can live up to that, but none of the production cars realistically, unless you're talking about a super stock or King Cobra or King Cobra or Copo. Even those cars don't match up with the Power Tour type cars. So, there's a clear difference between a race car and a production car getting down the track. No doubt about it. Chuck's about the Scat Pack footage, not as exciting. Let me tell you something about exciting. So I've been touched up on this channel before about my stuff isn't exciting or I'm too teachery. If I wanted to learn something, I'd go to school. Oh, okay. Interesting though, because, when I've helped a lot of folks out over the obnoxious number of years. I've got over 800 videos. Can you believe that? Anyway, over the years, I've been doing this stuff and it's kind of funny. I don't have the draw that any of these other channels do, which I still don't understand. There's got to be a bot thing involved. I just can't imagine. Anyway, woe is me, right? But anyway, it's kind of funny when I look at, over the years, the content that I've seen come and go. Yeah, the excitement, the exciting stuff is exciting, gets you a whole lot of views, I guess. But I don't know. I've always been because I come from the more technical side of things, I'm just going to have a bit more of a technical mind when it comes to stuff like this. So, yeah, don't let anybody bother you if they're saying it's boring. Good. Not all of it is supposed to be, watch me blow up my car type stuff either. Chuck saying, or sorry, who doesn't like Scat Pack content? Someone I think Factory 5 Racing does the Shelby clones. Well, no, this is Superformance was actually making parts for Shelby America at one point. Chuck saying the guy running his mouth probably drives a Geo. Maybe he does. Sovereign's hanging out with Chuck. I'm not a pro drag racer. I just drive around my area and do some pulls and pray there aren't cops. Believe me, I get that. Our folks saying super nerds. They're saying welcome. Chuck saying selling a car to be, you better know your shit. Yeah. Our folks saying sub nerds. There he is. Sorry, I misread that. That's pretty awesome. That's about right. Someone's talking about that game, Genie. And someone's saying like, subscribe, and share. Yes. Arvo is saying some potentially good news. I might have finally zeroed in on my intermittent rear popping noise over low speed bumps. The bushings on my sway links look pretty shot. Going to hit those tomorrow. Might be. Oh, also, check to make sure that, okay, so on your, can you get to the sway bar link? So on the links, just make sure that they're tight. I had a front sway bar end link that was loose and it was creating a pop that was driving me nuts until I had to crawl up underneath there. And literally, this is no kidding. I got the car up in the air and then I loaded it was the driver's side front tire and I started jacking it up real slowly. And I had my hand up inside, like just feeling like whatever I could do. And I happened to have it right on the end link. And I've got the jack and I'm slowly raising it up. You imagine the jack is like right here and I'm slowly raising it up and it goes pop right there in my hand. It literally popped in my hand. So that was pretty cool. Something about the rotary spinning Doritos. Yes. Dan said I had an 85 Supra back in the day. I never should have parted with it. I regret that to this day. There is a Supra in a storage lot that's over here that is just begging for some love. So I'm saying the Shadow had dual overhead cam. Those were fun cars. 94 Sprint ES, single overhead cam, had throttle body. Yep. Also owned a K car. Beat it hard. Yeah, those cars would last. You can beat them up pretty good. See Sovereign's hanging out with Chuck. Sovereign's saying, here's hoping to Viper landing in your lap. Yeah, I don't know that's going to happen. John's asking, would I rather have the newest Viper ACR or a C7 Corvette ZR1, the Corvette ZR1. So just a better car overall. Plus the upshot is that if you wanted to make it dumb, stupid, fast, all the right parts are there. Sovereign saying the Viper, but the Vet will require less discipline to drive. So the thing with the Viper that a lot of folks don't realize is that they're not fast feeling cars at all. It's the fastest slow car. It is the slowest feeling, fastest car you can ever drive. That first gear just stretches out forever. It's the same transmission ratios that are in the Hellcat for the manuals, except the Viper's got a 308 rear gear, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think they ever made the 354 standard, which they should have. And it just feels it's a safety thing too for me. And I won't get too deep into that, but the minute I switched over to 354s, the world changed for me completely because I didn't have to worry about first gear. If you had any wheel slip whatsoever in first gear, your dial up rate, you'd have a wheel speed of like 60 something miles an hour. And that's not a good thing. Put into perspective, most Mustangs or Camaros you would drive, that would be the top of second gear. So it's like you're taking off in second gear all the time in one of those cars if you're used to driving one of the older cars. Um, that said, you most likely get bitten. Red Dog saying, can you insure a drag car? Um, for practical purposes, no, you can't. Yes, there are some levels of insurance that you can get, but you're only buying the insurance for specific events, if I'm not mistaken, but it's a completely different way of looking at it. Chuck, Rosie O'Donnell and Amber Heard, Demon and New 170. Maybe. Sublime saying, Sub B, have you put a 392 manifold on the truck yet? No, I haven't. No, I haven't. And actually, I'm glad you asked that question. So I was looking at data with the intake that's on the truck right now. And man, the data looks good. I'm going to try S&B makes an aftermarket, I say cold air. It's just a repurposing of like the intake style that's on the DS. The thing is though, so for you older guys that are used to carburetors, how do I explain this so that you guys can understand where I'm coming with this? So whenever you're tuning an EFI car, there is one thing that you can compare with the carbureted stuff. Carburetors, a 4-barrel carburetor will typically, a high performance application carburetor will have half an inch at the least to a full inch, sometimes an inch and a half, of vacuum under the carburetor in the manifold. And when you're tuning an EFI combination, you look at the same measurement. Except the more natural parlance for tuning is in kilopascals. So it's kph. And to give you an example, barometric pressure on a standard day at sea level is 100 kPa. So if you have an intake manifold that is offering up, say, 98 or 97 kPa for the majority of the pull, that means that you are only 3% less than ambient in terms of what the condition is inside that intake manifold. So if you were to shrink yourself down and hop into the plenum of the intake manifold and just stand around, you would be trying to breathe air that is just a very slight vacuum, and it translates to 1 inch of mercury, the same way that you would be looking at a carbureted car and go, that's pretty good. It's good for atomization. It's good for velocity. It does all of that. Now, with some of my ported manifolds, I've been able to capture a couple of percent. So I'd go from, say, 96 or 97 to 98 kPa. But you can never get a full 100 kPa across the board. I haven't seen that with any of these Dodge manifolds. I've gotten close, but I've never been able to really nail it that way. And I mean, yeah, there's going to be a difference in terms of runner length and things like that can come into play to make some torque. And I know that there's power in there. But the reality is that, man, the data looks like obnoxiously good. So if I could remove say 1% of kPa by putting that more like up and curved S&B intake on the truck, that would be about what I would hope to get out of it at the most anyway. And if the data looks that good, I probably would just say to heck with it and not worry about the 6.4. And remember, man, she's running 13s pretty like all the time consistent now. She's running 13s with the stock manifold, stock air intake, and stock air filters. I still have that charcoal thing or whatever it is in there. So, I mean, truck's running really good. So that manifold is not that bad, but I would prefer to have that 6.4 truck on there. I think there might have been an issue making it fit with the e-torque. but I can't remember off the top of my head. I need to talk to some guys that have had a chance to play with it a little bit more. But good question. Thank you. Chuck said I prefer low review numbers anyways. Rach Rides has like 400 people on their live show, and he never answers your question unless you super chat. I can understand that. Chuck saying Joe's cool, but he's not B. Oh, sorry, saying, oh yeah, B. Don't forget the Mecum auction for the Black Ghost is nearly upon us. You'll be able to see it at Motor Trend TV. That is correct. Auction is 5/19. It is coming up. John saying, asking if I drive my Challenger drag pack around on the street, will the cops know that it's not street legal because it looks just like a regular Challenger, only without mirrors? I don't think that they're going to be savvy enough to know that. Let's see. Damn, where you going, Teal? No say. Oh, Dan saying, where will the license plate? Oh, I don't know. Sorry, the drag pack sticks out like a sore thumb. Well, I mean, if I'll put it to you like this, if you're running it in drag pack guys where you're running open headers in essence, yeah, you're going to stand out like a sore thumb. So I'm saying I want to drive a Challenger drag pack. They're nice. I haven't driven one, but I know somebody who's got one. I wonder if I can bum a ride off of him with that one. I know nothing. Arfo's saying, speaking of links, I think I should stick with Mopar or is Moog Precision fine? I'd stick with Mopar. I just haven't had any real issues with them. And that's with hundreds of hits and passes. By the way, so in my newest or latest, I should say, computer, I was going through and deleting a bunch of just random data logs. And there were so many wide open throttle hit data logs in the red car. I mean, this doesn't have any, this isn't my old computer that I used at work where I would just data log and data log and data log and data log. It's not that one. It's the one that I have now. And it is just so many hits on the red car, man. It's just funny. It's just crazy how many hits. But I was just liquidating the log file. I got way too many logs in here. John's asking, will the drag pack beat the Demon 170 the quarter mile? By a long shot. You have to remember though that the drag pack is a race car. Technically speaking, the Demon 170 is not a race car. It just isn't. And we don't even know what the car is going to run. We know what we've been told it's going to run, but if it's anything like the Demon, it's going to be about 3 to maybe even 4/10 slower than what they're telling us. So we'll see. John, I think drag pack's it's a race car. Yeah. So I'm saying C170 is high 8s. Hopefully for those that buy them, I want to see you guys succeed. The guys with the C170s, we need you to succeed. We need that car to do well. So, man, please run it. Get it, have it on the tire, get it out there, get some hits on it, a real drag strip. It will absolutely be awesome. And I'm hoping again that they all run the numbers too. But guys, with that, we're about an hour and a half. I got to wrap it up because I got to wake up crazy early in the morning. But with that, guys, I want to thank each and every one of y'all for hanging out with me. Would not do this without you. Love each and every one of y'all. And listen, guys, get out there and do something cool for somebody because chances are they need it way more than you know. And with that, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. Y'all have a great one. Adios.